I'm Judy Shaw for NYSE Floor Talk, and I'm here at NYSE Pacific. Joining me today is Laura Spiekerman. She is co-founder at Alloy. Laura, it is a pleasure to have you here. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Great. So now, Laura, tell me, with so many companies entering the identity space these days, what sets you apart?
I think there are two primary things that set Alloy apart. One is we've been doing this for almost 10 years now. Before identity was cool, if identity can be considered cool now. We have been very customer-centric in our approach. So we've worked really closely with our bank customers, our fintech customers for almost a decade. And what that means is our product roadmap is deeply, deeply rooted in their problems, their pain points, what they're looking for, not sort of a buzzy guess at what the market might be looking for. And I think that's really made us more effective at helping them solve the problems that they're facing today and are very kind of real problems for them.
Mm-hmm. All right, do you think the hype around AI as a means to solve fraud is justified?
It's a double-edged sword. I guess my short answer is no. Right now, what we're seeing is that AI is potentially a bigger problem than a solution for the financial services industry. AI has been used in incredibly sophisticated ways by fraudsters. So we're seeing a rise in deepfakes, in voice cloning, in phishing, incredibly sophisticated attacks. And as we know, sort of by definition, fraudsters are not regulated, or they don't abide by the same rules that we all do. And that means that they're able to deploy these really fast. They're very well funded. They can do this really, really quickly. On the other hand, we as the financial services industry are adopting AI tools to try to fight back, but we're heavily regulated. We can do it in a deliberate, kind of incremental way. And we're doing that quickly, I think, relative to what we've done in the past, but it's not going to be the same as what fraudsters are able to do. That being said, I think there are some things that are happening in our industry that are really promising. We can detect fraud and scams earlier and faster. One of the ways I think we're doing that is by detecting fraudsters before fraud even happens. By looking at certain identity signals or transactions that happen, we can identify them before money's actually stolen, which is really promising. I still would say the fraudsters are kind of winning so far.
Mm-hmm. All right, and tell me, what trend in financial services isn't getting enough attention?
I hate to say it, I actually think in-branch banking is making a comeback. So, of course, in 2020, when COVID came around, we all moved everything to digital channels. My mom started using Venmo, and I'm happy for that. We aren't abandoning digital, but we're actually seeing more and more people, including young people, go back to branches. And Chase actually put out a report recently that I think they've seen a 30% increase in activity in their branches in 2022 relative to 2019, so even pre-pandemic, which is sort of fascinating. And that means, I think, two things for in-branch banking experiences. One, we have to figure out how to adopt omni-channel strategies. So because we're not giving up on digital, we're still definitely using digital. We need to unify the experience within branch. If you go into a branch, they should recognize you from the digital channels. You should be able to start an application in one place and finish it in another place. The second is fighting fraud. So we put all of our fraud fighting resources and money and brains on digital channels for the last few years. Branches fell behind, and now we have to catch up. We're seeing a rise in check fraud in particular. And some of it is sort of just by branches are checking IDs very just manually, right? You almost see more sophisticated ID checks in bars in California than you do in branches. And so we need to catch up. We need to figure out how to mitigate check fraud in branch while we also fight our fraud digitally.
Laura, let's switch gears for a moment. You're co-founder of Alloy. Tell me, what sparked you to start the company?
Well, I grew up always wanting, as a little girl, to do compliance and fraud. Just kidding. I experienced this pain myself with my current co-founders at a previous startup, where we found that identifying people, whether it was for KYC purposes or for fraud purposes, was critical to being able to deliver financial services and products. And without that, you just simply couldn't do it. And we were at the point where we realized there should be an API for this, the way that there were starting to be APIs for all sorts of things. And so in 2015, we set out to build this ourselves, not knowing that banks in particular would need this, but we started with our own little fintech problem, and it's grown from there.
Wonderful. All right. Well, Laura, it's been great to talk with you. Thanks for joining me on Floor Talk today.
Thank you for having me.